Today, we're on a secret mission to get coffee and donuts. The problem is, the Germans drank all the coffee and ate all the donuts. So now, we gotta go kick their asses.
Call of Duty 3 was the first big Call of Duty release that I remember seeing advertising for. Before Call of Duty, I was a huge Medal of Honor fan, but Call of Duty looked next level to 10-year-old me. I remember renting Call of Duty 3 from Blockbuster for my PS2 and thinking this game was absolutely amazing. But all these years later, 17 to be exact, which is absolutely insane, does Call of Duty 3 still hold up? Let's talk about it.
This isn't funny!
June 4th, 1940. Nazi forces enter Paris. Within 10 days, they control the entire city.
Developed by Treyarch, this was their second Call of Duty game after the criminally underrated and fantastic Call of Duty 2 Big Red 1, and is technically their only mainline Call of Duty entry, since after Call of Duty 4, they stopped numbering their entries. Well, they stopped numbering their entries that specific way. Wouldn't it be kind of awesome if after all these years, they just called the next Call of Duty 5?
We'll leave him, Doyle. Quietly.
Good job.
But according to Noah Heller, who is part of the development team, Call of Duty 3 was developed in only 8 months. And that's amazing considering that I think this is still a damn good first-person shooter. Now, Call of Duty 3 is almost a forgotten Call of Duty game, and is still the only mainline entry to never get a release on PC. And if you watch any Call of Duty ranking videos or lists, Call of Duty 3 is always near the bottom, which has always irked me a bit, since this was one of my favorite games that I would play over and over again when I was a kid. But replaying it now, I definitely have some thoughts.
Doyle, you listening to me, Doyle? So, as I was saying, only 2 things the Frenchies are any good at. Surrendering and kissing.
Now this game has 4 different perspectives during the campaign. The Americans, the British, and the British has the best character in the game.
Give Wilkins a hand, would you? Boy can't tell his ass from his elbow. Damn good to see you again.
Wilkins, you blasted idiot. What are you doing, my friend?
The Canadians, and finally the Polish. The Brits and Americans definitely get most of the screen time here, but it was still cool seeing the Polish and Canadian missions, and when I was a kid, this is how I learned that the Canadians took part in World War II. Don't hate me, I was 10 and stupid. And now I'm, almost 30 and still stupid.
You blasted idiot.
And when I was a kid, this game would make me tear up with emotions at a few points. I remember it being really cinematic and just amazing. But playing it now, it definitely has that blockbuster feel, but kind of lacks the polish that the future games would have, which makes sense given the 8 months of development. But you don't really get to know any of these characters. I'd say the British campaign left the biggest impact on me, but that could be because I liked how much our buddy here was just a total dick most of the time.
So now Vera here and Frenchie can take us to the Maquis base.
Don't call me Frenchy.
Whatever you say, Frenchie.
But during the campaigns, when characters would die, I didn't really feel anything. They were just there, then they were gone. I mean, we do have almost 20 years of new Call of Duty games and shooters with movie-level writing and cinematics, so I will give this game credit that for 2006, this was still really high quality and great, but it just didn't leave much of an impression. One thing that was very, very annoying, you cannot skip cutscenes. If you reload a level, even if you've completed the entire game, you'll need to sit there and watch the cutscenes again no matter what. You can't skip them. And you know, these are good cutscenes, but it was just annoying to have to sit there and re-watch them. You know how this is. It's Call of Duty, it's had fantastic gameplay since the very beginning. But Call of Duty 3 did feel a little bit slow sometimes with just how it felt when you're playing on the controller. And this game also had a lot more bugs than I remember.
Martyrs! 3 crews!
A couple caused me to restart or reload a checkpoint. Some were just sort of funny. But this game definitely could have used more polish, but the gunplay is fantastic. Clearing out rooms and trenches still feels fantastic, and this game does have many QuickTime events. And back in 2006, I thought these were super cool, but now I kind of started to think that they were a little annoying and would just take me out of the game when they would happen. And the QuickTime events that you'll come across in the game are, you know, the one where you get attacked, one where you have to plant bombs, one where you have to use a crowbar, and, you know, I cannot forget to mention the fun paddling across the river. You know, they weren't bad or awful, they just really took me out of the game each time. But one thing I did not like was the weird controls for the mortars. You had to rotate the left and right thumbsticks to turn them and go up and down, and it was just really awkward, and I'm glad that they never brought this control scheme back for any future game. One thing I loved and was my favorite thing when I was a kid, and my favorite thing replaying this game now, is that you get to drive a Jeep. And this game has what is one of my favorite missions in any Call of Duty game, and it's the mission Hostage.
Keith! Try and let you out back for it, did you?
So in this mission, you have a mini little open world where you can drive around in, and it's pretty small and it still kind of railroads you to go a certain way. But it's so freaking awesome being able to drive around and do different objectives. It was just so much fun, especially playing it back in 2006. It just was so open and wasn't something that I ever experienced before with the first-person shooter back in the day. The mission just feels way ahead of its time. I can't think of a large open area level like that again until the first Modern Warfare remake. I could be wrong, and let me know in the comments if I am, but this is still a favorite mission of mine from this game, and driving the Jeep still feels really solid as long as you aren't a terrible driver like me. And the game also has some really cool replayability in some of the levels. You'll be given an option to choose what route you want to take to the objective.
We're gonna try a pincer move here. One team will advance through those houses. Another will advance up the street. Team 3 goes through that yard there. Nichols, you take point.
And it's just a small touch like that that adds a lot more fun when you go back and replay the campaign, because that's pretty much what you'll probably be doing most of. Now, I never played the multiplayer for this when I was a kid, and I don't currently have Gold or Game Pass Basic or whatever they call it now, but according to Google, the servers are still online and you could still play this with other people if you wanted to, and you could find enough people for a game. But if you have 4 friends in real life, you can do 1 to 4 player couch co-op, but there are not any bots unless I'm really dumb and I miss the option, which is definitely possible.
You blasted idiot!
The sound was great for the most part, but some of these cutscenes and in the game, the characters' voices seem really quiet, but all the guns and the sound effects of war, they all sounded really good to me, and the music was fantastic. It was conducted by Joel Goldsmith, who sadly passed away back in 2012, but he did an absolutely fantastic job with this music. It's truly movie level stuff. When it was released, Call of Duty 3 was generally liked, but it was quickly overshadowed when Call of Duty 4 released. And as far as I'm aware, the only modern platform you can play this game on is Xbox via backwards compatibility with the Xbox 360 version. And that's the way I played and the footage that you've been seeing. And this was really a great trip down memory lane. One of those games that every few minutes I was going, oh, I remember that. And I think it honestly still holds up today, and it's definitely an underrated game. It's definitely worth picking up for the trip down memory lane alone if you played it back in the day. And even if you didn't play it back in the day, this is still a really fun campaign. The music's great, and the graphics, honestly, still hold up pretty well. As you can see from the video, obviously it's aged a bit, but I think it still looked really solid. Call of Duty 3 is really fun, albeit a little bit flawed, but it's definitely still worth playing.
Dismiss, Private! You've got your orders, soldier.